Let's go to Brian, San Diego, the great KFMB country, a Democrat. Go.
Hey, everybody's worried about the private property. When the
Do you have any private property?
Private property.
Do you have any private property?
There's no such thing as private property anymore.
Do you have a home?
Do you have a home? Keeps fighting over it.
All right, sir, you're going to keep talking over me, or can we have a discussion?
Okay.
Do you have a home?
No.
Do you have a car?
I do.
Do you have clothing?
Yeah.
That's property. Private property. Does somebody have a right to take your car away from you? Does somebody have a right to take your clothing away from you?
If they sue you, they can.
If what?
If they sue you in a court of law, they can.
Sue you for what? What are you talking about?
Well,
let me put it to you this way. Do they have a right to take your clothing and your property for the sole purpose of diminishing your value and giving it to somebody else?
They do it all the time.
All right, my friend, you would do well in slave communities. You would do well in communities where liberty is non-existent because you're what I call a drone. Do you understand?
No.
Do you understand what a drone is? A drone is somebody who doesn't even know what it's like in a free society, even though they live in one. A drone is somebody who's willing to surrender their liberty, and which includes their private property. Right? That's
Mark,
you.
It all the time. I mean, ever since 1933, the government has been bankrupt, and there's nothing.
All right, thanks for your call. You're not a Democrat. See, this can only work if people are honest. Let's try Al in New Jersey, a Democrat. Surprise, surprise. Yes, go right ahead.
Gesundheit, Mark. How are you? I am a Democrat.
And by the way, notice how funny all the Democrats are. Yes, go right ahead, Al.
Okay. The reason health care is being in existence is because these people, us, want to control the general population. You control health care, you control the person. And that's the only way that we can get any results out of the people in the United States. Otherwise, we could not do I don't want to say any words here, but that's the only way that
All right,
we can
thank
control.
you for your incoherence. Let's move on. This is part of it, too, folks. I'm doing this because I'm always... Mark, give them a chance. Okay. Eric, Washington, D.C., the great WMAL, a Democrat. Going. By the way, I'm not looking for Democrats. I'm looking for leftists and liberals, but go ahead.
Mark, whenever I hear your show, which is often, all I hear you doing is you're very good at defending insurance companies and oil companies and big business, but I never hear you actually.
Hey, Eric, I have an idea. Why don't you do what I asked, which is why don't you tell me why your philosophy is such a wonderful philosophy?
What's that?
Why don't you tell me why your philosophy is such a wonderful... Let's give this guy, do we have our clock ready, the 20-second liberal clock? Go.
I'm not saying that my philosophy is wonderful.
I said, tell me why your philosophy is so wonderful. Go.
I'm not. I'm saying that, but you're completely one-sided.
Thank you. Sir, no. Sir, what I defend is liberty and property rights, whether it's a big company or a small company, whether it's a proprietorship, whether it's an employee who works hard and saves his money and wants to purchase something, or whether it's an employer. Your problem, sir, is all you see are big insurance, big oil, big this, big that. You've been sucked into the whole argument. And let me tell you, there's an awful lot of little people that work for a lot of big companies. Some of them are in unions, some of them are not. So what is your beef, sir? We should destroy all these big companies? Is that it?
I'm not suggesting that at all.
Well, why do you despise them so?
Because, Mark, do you know anybody who's been denied?
Can you answer a question, sir? Have you yet answered any of my questions? Let's try one. Why do you despise the oil industry?
I despise the health care insurance because they refuse. There are many people who they deny coverage to who supposedly have coverage.
As a matter of fact, sir, there are very few people they deny coverage to, and we passed a law in the early 1980s that anybody who walks into an emergency room, illegal or legal, an American citizen gets free health care. What is your gripe?
I'm not talking about I'm talking about people with regular illnesses who
I'm talking about people with regular... Sir, Do you know what the hell insurance is?
Yes.
When you buy car insurance, do you go in and say, hey, I just had an accident, I want insurance? Do you do that, sir?
Health insurance and car insurance are not.
Why don't you? No. Let's stick with my example. I'll educate you as we go on. When you go to buy automobile insurance, do you just total your car and go into State Farm and say, here I am, now I want insurance? Do you do that?
No, I don't.
No, and they're not stupid. They go broke taking care of people like you, and I'll explain why this is relevant in a moment. I want to address this point that we left with. Mark. Auto insurance is different than health insurance. Now, why do I use auto insurance? Because the left does all the time. There's not a single insurance company that would insure somebody after they have a major accident who went without insurance, because they would go broke, because everybody would wait until they needed insurance to actually get it. Now, there's more on this point. We'll be right back.
From his underground bunker in an undisclosed location, the Great One.
All right. Finally, a little breathing space here. First of all, isn't it interesting that when you debate with a liberal, it's as if we're still debating pre-New Deal. Like we've never passed a single entitlement program, like we don't have any experience with big government and their philosophy as it applies to our real lives. It's like we're always starting over. And yet, during the break, I make this little list. We have Medicare for the elderly. It's broke. We have Medicaid for the poor. It's broke. They cover millions and millions of people. We have now for the young the S-chip program. That will go broke. We have the Veterans Administration. In many parts of the country, a lot of the vets complain that it's inferior. So that leaves about 60% of the population of the country left with private health care, which is not broke. Now, they're barely eking out a profit. We looked at those statistics, 2.5% to 3%. That's what the industry makes every year. It's like number 80-something when you look at all large to small industries. And by the way, if they're so profitable, anybody can purchase shares in these companies, but they don't for the most part. Everybody's out buying gold now. Good idea. And then on top of that, we have a federal law that says in case of emergencies, you can go to any public hospital and they must treat you until you're well enough to leave. We have illegals who come in here for cancer treatment and never go. And we have citizens that do the same thing. Then we're told there's 47 million people with no insurance. A bald-faced lie, as I, first, deconstructed that figure by going to the census report. We have 12 million people in this nation of over 300 million who cannot get health insurance under any circumstance. So rather than focus on those 12 million, rather than try and fix Medicare, which is broke, fix Medicaid, which is broke, improve the Veterans Administration, which is already government-run, we're going to take the other 60% and manage it, and redistribute and ration, and we're told that this is the humane thing to do, that as a wealthy nation, this is what we must do. Because you see, ladies and gentlemen, they're going after the people who have private health insurance and like it. And they will create whatever scenario that comes into their heads, whatever you can imagine to try and convince you. And these insurance companies, these private insurance companies, they would have you believe that there's only 5 of them, when there's 1,300 of them. They would have you believe that they're monopolistic because they won't cover people across state lines. That's not because of the insurance companies, that's because of the states. They're violating the Commerce Clause of the federal Constitution. And the regulations and mandates that are imposed on these companies drive up their costs, drive down their profit margins, so they're number 86 or 84 on the list of industries that are profitable.